What's cracking, everyone? My name is Ryan, and today I'll be taking the Gunnr seat as I cover my full review of the Schiit Gunnr. The Gunnr is an all-in-one complete and powerful unit of a DAC and amp combination device for your gaming and audio needs. It retails in at a starting price of just $214, providing you get it without the external AC adapter, which will add another $15 and bring the price to $229 if you choose to go that route. A quick disclaimer for everyone is that I bought this unit myself late in 2024 directly off of Schiit's site. So I've had quite a bit of time spent gaming and listening to music on the Gunnr to give you a full analysis of what I think. Spoiler alert, it is damn good. Now the Gunnr will come in a pretty straightforward and simple but secured packaging from Schiit. You'll get the amp itself, a 6-foot USB-C to USB-A cable, and the 16-volt AC wall adapter should you choose to add it on. As for the build, it is all metal on the top, bottom, and sides. It has a clean looking black and gray aesthetic with a nice fat knob on the top of the unit. There are also rubber pads for the feet so you won't be slipping or sliding your shit around the desk or the table that you decide to place it on. The metal is solid as well and doesn't have any give when pressing on the unit. Now for this price, it's nice to see and feel quality craftsmanship throughout the amp, and it's something I've come to really appreciate about Schiit products. They really do keep things simple, sturdy, and clean. And I mean, look at it and just tell me it doesn't make you say, this is some good shit. Now the inputs on the back are all securely in place, and switches on the front have a nice tactile flip on and off feel to them. You'll have 2 tone dials on the front that are unique to the Gunnr and specifically designed for gamers in mind. The wall wart you will get is pretty standard and large at that, so make sure to get a bit of room on whatever power strip you choose to plug it into. Hey guys, quick reminder here to make sure to like videos like this one if you do like them, and please do subscribe to the channel to help support my growth. I also have a Patreon if you'd like to further support the channel and get in on a Telegram chat that I have for my Patreon members, talk about audio and things like that. So with that out of the way, guys, let's get back to the video. So the Gunnr can provide a whopping 2 watts of total power at 16 ohms of impedance. But what's even more impressive here is that you will still get 200 milliwatts of maximum power out of 300 ohms of impedance. So this will power a very high percentage of headphones that are on the market today. The DAC used in the Gunnr is an ESS 9018 Sabre DAC, but it is not the same DAC as the Mode series, in case you were wondering. One difference for the Gunnr is that this can decode up to 32 bit rate and 384 on the sample rate using the USB. It will be limited to 192 sample rate going through the optical input, which is pretty standard anyway. The mic input is the standard 48 kilohertz and is said to use a really good TI ADC along with an NE5332 preamp for the gain. New to the Schiit gaming line of products is the width and presence switches and dials, also found on the SIN by the way. These will add staging and can pull in voicing for a more immersive experience in gaming and music listening. The Gunnr can be powered all by the USB-C on its own, which makes it very portable for console gamers. But just note, it is unfortunately not compatible with Xbox consoles due to the lack of UAC 1 or UAC 2 support through the USB. I should also mention that we get 3 different gain modes here: negative, low, and high, along with a DAK or dope ass knob. So starting with the back of the Gunnr on the left, and you'll notice the USB-C input. This is to connect to your source and can be the method to power the Gunnr if you choose to go that route instead of using the AC adapter. Note that the USB will draw 500 milliamps of power if you do not use an external power adapter. So iOS and iPadOS devices will need to use the external AC adapter. Next up is the optical input that you can connect to a TV or other devices that utilize optical out. Right in the middle, you will notice the power switch. I do appreciate that this is not an always on type unit when plugged into the USB input, and it does need to be put in the on position to be recognized by USB sources used. You're welcome. Next up is the preamp output. This is used to connect powered speakers using a single 3.5 TRS connection. Lastly, on the far right is the AC input jack for the linear override. So you don't have to use the power adapter here unless your source requires additional power. Also, this is where I'll give the recommendation to use this adapter when you can, because it will provide additional power to the unit. That additional power provides a 10 decibel boost to the output gain, which could come in handy for more power-hungry headphones. I always feel like I'm saying hungry hippos when I say that. All right, moving to the front, and again, starting on the left, you'll notice both the headphone output and mic input. For the headphone output, you'll need a 6.3 adapter plug if your set of cans are 3.5 plugs only. Also, this cannot connect a mic and headset single cable, as you will need a Y-splitter to connect the green side into the 6.3 input. Also note that if you are using headphones, it will mute the output if you have speakers plugged in as well. So there's no worry of powering a headphone and speakers at the same time. Unless you wanted to do that, then well, I guess you're gonna be shit out of luck. Now the mic output is just like it sounds and will need a 3.5mm plug that is typically in the pink color, again from the Y adapter. Next, you will find a gain select switch that I've come to love on the Schiit amps. If you're familiar with the Magni units, you'll know exactly how good this gain switch is. It has 3 options: negative, low, and high gain. Negative gain can literally be a game changer for those sensitive IEMs out there that need the least amount of noise possible. And this amp has a dead, silent noise floor. Next up is a switch that is unique to what the Gunnr can provide for gamers. It is a width and presence switch. Flip it up to turn it on or down to leave it off and provide no effects at all. It does work hand in hand with the next 2 dials. The first dial is the width dial. This can expand and add more width to your stage by adjusting to the right, or pull things in a bit if you require a more intimate experience by adjusting things to the left. The next dial is the presence dial. Turning to the right will bring voicing closer to you, and to the left will pull them further from the distance. Now both dials do have a nice stop in the dead center when you want to keep things neutral. You can keep the switch for presence and width on at all times with both dials in the center position to get the same effect as just turning the switch off. So this is my recommendation, as it's simply one less step to mess with these features. Now I prefer to keep things simple, but you can do as you wish. The last switch we see is the input selector. Flip it up to use the USB input and down if you want to go optical. Now saving the best for last, okay, subjectively the best for last, is the wonderful dope ass knob on top. It is not a tight knob to adjust. It is smooth and satisfying to use, and man, do I love a good knob. Perverts. I've used pretty much every headphone that I've had my hands on recently for the Gunnr. All of my ZMFs, all of my Sennheisers, and the Aria unveiled most recently. I've used the gaming setup quite a bit thanks to the boom mic from Meze. This allowed me to game with the 105 Air, 109 Pro, as well as the Aria Organic. I did also make sure to test out sensitive IEMs such as the Instinct Emerald from Jomo Audio that I have. The Gunnr didn't skip a beat or note when tested with everything I used. I found it to be dead ass silent as advertised, even in low gain, and powerful enough to drive things like my ZMF Atrium closed just fine. To segue headphones tested into exactly the kind of synergy you can expect, here's what I'll tell you. Now I've come to find that Schiit has a house sound of providing a weighted and solid low end experience. There is impact and a bit of extra thump. Then we get a clean and neutral mid-range that opens up to a crystal-like response in the treble. I didn't find any kind of extra energy to the treble to my ears, but it also won't curb any of that off either. Now, as for imaging, staging, and details, honestly, I found no detriments to any of those either. Again, I wouldn't say it expanded upon the stage, but it also didn't narrow it down, such as you may find on other Schiit DACs. This is excellent, considering this is a device aimed towards gamers. Where stage can truly be a difference maker for that experience, and having a somewhat neutrality to the amp further caters to those dials when you want to dial them in. The main thing that will set the Gunnr apart from the competition, I think, will be on how simple of a unit this is. There is no app to download, no complicated EQ profiles to implement, you won't get any software voicing effects to mess with for your own vocals. Now to some, that may be a downside, but to me, it's incredibly convenient. This is what plug and play truly is, in my opinion. So what about using width and the presence dials? Well, I have. Otherwise, what the hell kind of a reviewer would I be? Don't answer that, by the way. This is the Z Reviews and Harmonic Dyne collaboration headphone, the Eris. It's a pretty polarizing headphone depending on who you talk to or watch online. Now to me, this is a pure tons of fun headphone. It has an incredible amount of bass, but it's the old school throw some big ass subwoofers in your trunk type of bass. It slams and brings that boom, baby, like Rick Savage would say. Here's my impression after listening to the Eris for both gaming and music paired up to the Gunnr. Oh, and you can also listen to the mic quality with the Meze BOOM Mic, and man, that's a lot of boom. All right, guys, I wanted to stop here a second and talk to you about my experience with the Gunnr using the Harmonic Dyne and Z Reviews Eris headphone, because I feel like this is kind of the perfect scenario for the Gunnr and really showcasing what it can do. So if you're not familiar with the Eris headphone, this is a bass Canon headphone. It has got extreme low end to it, which is incredible. And it's got a good amount of stage to it as well, but it is scooped out in the mid-range. And a lot of people do like to game with this headphone, which is what I'm doing here, playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Loving this game so far. But this is a dialogue heavy game. And what I'm finding playing on something like the Eris is that dialogue is a little bit faint, and I want a little bit more in that presence region. Guess what? The presence dial on the Gunnr, I turned it about 50% to the right, and that brought things right in and right to the level that I wanted to hear them without being harsh or fatiguing or anything like that. Now that width dial, you would think because this has good stage already wouldn't be needed, but actually turning that to the right as well expanded that width, but also dropped down the low end a little. So that's where I'm going to kind of tell you what these dials kind of do when you mess with them. So that width dial, as I said, turning it to the right is going to add sparkle and airiness up top to the treble, expand out the stage. But doing so will also have an adverse effect on the low end. So think lower mids, upper bass response. It's going to drop that down a little bit, which isn't bad for the Eris because this already has a ton of bass going for it. So I didn't find that it did anything negatively as far as that aspect goes. Then the presence dial, just like it may sound, turning it to the right, lifts up that presence and brings vocals and brings, that upper mid-range into your ears, lower treble part into your ears. And if you have a headphone that isn't too spicy there or isn't too sibilant, that could be exactly what you're looking for. Think of like V-shaped headphones, things like that could bring in that dialogue feature to it. The adverse effect of that is that if you turn it up too much on a headphone that's spicy, think of like an organic or something that doesn't really need that, it's going to be too much. It's going to be fatiguing and you're going to need to drop that back down, maybe to neutral. Or you can actually dial it to the left to further reduce that presence region to kind of line things up to your flavor. So this is what I'm talking about, that these dials can really cater an experience of a headphone, especially if you got a headphone that has a different kind of tuning, such as the Eris. It's really cool, and I've had a lot of fun with this. Also works incredibly well for music. So I was playing the track Lose Control by Teddy Swims. It's a live version, and I love that track. And I was listening on the Eris because I knew the vocals would be distant, would be a little bit faint, and I wouldn't really dig it that much on the Eris. But I gotta say, when I dial it in to the right, I turn that knob, that presence feature to the right, I turn the width to the right as well because I didn't need all that bass response. It expanded it and also brought the vocals in. It sounded incredible on this headphone. And so again, for music as well, it can do wonders for you. So don't fool yourself and think this is strictly just a gaming DAC amp. This is an all-in-one DAC amp that can do a lot of fun things with those two dials because that's exactly what it did for me. Oh, and by the way, hopefully this mic sounds good because I am using the Meze BOOM Mic with the Schiit Gunnr, and straight talk, I think, honestly, this thing does sound pretty dang good. In my opinion, this is a very quality mic gain that Schiit has implemented on the amp. They say so on the site, and I agree after doing some real-time testing. And your ears can judge for yourself. Now, typically, I find myself needing to boost the gain more for my voice, so this showcases exactly what I mean by the Gunnr providing plenty of it. I use Discord, OBS, and even some in-game voice controls, and all of it was handled beautifully on the Gunnr. One other gaming DAC amp I have is the Sound Blaster G8. I've already covered an in-depth review of the G8 that I'll link, so you can check it out if you'd like. Now, the G8 is the cheaper of the two, coming in at just 150 bucks. It also has quite a few more features and a bit more versatility thanks to the dual USB inputs on the back. That alone will set it apart enough for some when making a decision between the two of these devices. Now, I really think the rest will come down to what are you needing from a gaming DAC and amp. If you want simple controls but enough power to cover future headphones and IEM purchases, then I definitely recommend the Gunnr. Also, for the quality of sound, I do think the Gunnr edges out the G8, even though I thought the G8 performed very well. Then, if you're looking to save money and you want a device that will be even more portable and versatile, then the G8 may be right up your lane. It also has the ability to work with Xbox systems, which the Gunnr will not, unfortunately. Now, just be prepared to become familiar enough with the software for the Sound Blaster in order to truly unlock its full potential. Still, there is no denying the excellent build, ease of use, and high quality mic and audio quality that the Gunnr rewards you with. It has been and will be my main gaming setup for my desktop. Now, one side note I should make is that Fosse Audio is releasing a new gaming DAC and amp that looks to be right in the competition with the amps like the Gunnr and the G8. Now, hopefully I'll get a chance to check it out at some point and let you guys know how it compares between the two. Could have got a bigger platform for them both. They're kind of just hanging off the edge. All right, guys, that wraps up my thoughts on the Gunnr. I really cannot find many faults with this unit at all, especially coming in at this price point, unless you need something with DSP or you're purely an Xbox console gamer. Now, for that, I've already covered another option, and there are plenty of other options to consider, even outside of that. I'd love to know in the comments down below, what do you use for your gaming setup? And does the Gunnr now make your list of future purchases? I'd like to thank each and every one of you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.